Hello and welcome to Feel Good Friday, your monthly dose of positivity right here on our Facebook and YouTube channels. This month, I am on my way down to Alabama, which is why we're not live today. We're in the middle of shooting a documentary with Lifeline to Success and Mike Cook Boxing, and I can't wait to share that story with you in the coming months. But today, I want to share two stories we've done in the last month that really are near and dear to the team's heart. It has been a heck of a year, and it feels like we're coming to the other side of the pandemic. That's going to look different for all of us in a different way, but I want to share with you a piece that we put together for Regional 1 Health right here in Memphis. It's the Level 1 Trauma Center that continued to serve trauma patients and all other patients throughout the pandemic while also treating COVID patients. And so for this year's annual fundraiser that also looked a little bit different than it has in the past few years, it was in a drive-in, and we put together a trailer of sorts that tells the story of how the hospital weathered the COVID storm and responded, continuing to serve the needs of the community in a really powerful, impactful way. So here it is firsthand, here directly from the frontline workers.
It was like a mystery, like a monster.
Now all of a sudden it is killing people all over the world.
I don't want to take anything home to my family.
What constantly went through my mind of what is it with my mother, what if it were my sister?
People were scared, legitimately scared.
And the numbers were growing.
We really started to realize that COVID was not just going to be something that was going to affect our medical patients, but something that would also affect our trauma patients, and especially, we had to protect our trauma staff.
Dr. Coopwood immediately assembled a team of people
And started making a plan before we ever even needed a plan.
We were all wanting to be a part of something big, and we felt like we were a family.
All non-essential employees were asked to work from home.
We were told to wear masks, and then we were told to wear face shields.
Visitation stopped almost immediately.
I got it, then my mom got it. I was terrified.
I had tons of therapists going out due to COVID-related illnesses, a bunch of patients being admitted that were COVID positive.
We made the decision to have my children stay with my parents, and that went on for 5 months.
It was interesting for trauma season that, not only were we dealing with COVID, but this was the busiest year we've ever had.
But we were also resilient in knowing that we had a job to do and that we must get it done.
For a little while, I cried on the way home from work every day, and then eventually I was crying on the way to work and on the way home, and at work, I tried to stay busy and not think about it too much.
I immediately began to think, not necessarily for the patients, I began to think about our staff members, because when you think big, it involves everybody.
It was really just trying to figure out the best way to continue to do what we do best, and that's serve our patients.
I did not have to ask anyone to work in there. I had volunteers.
We were adapting to our new norm.
And it turns out that due to my age, I was in a high-risk group. I didn't like learning about that, but I love my work and I feel that I'm needed here, and it was clear that I was needed even more.
It's amazing what we were capable of and the perseverance that we all went through together.
In totality, there were 23 persons that I came in contact with that lost someone. A husband, a wife, a grandfather. The first thought is, don't let their memory die.
There was one patient who wanted to write a letter for his daughter, and the nurse actually dictated that letter for him, and then I delivered it to her. And while it may have been difficult for us, it was certainly harder for the two of them than I could ever imagine.
I lost a patient to COVID. She died on Christmas, so that was tough. That was probably one of the hardest moments that I've dealt with being on the unit.
The assurance was, we're in this together. So if you hurt, I hurt. That's one of the things that got us through the tough times, the Junes and the Julys and the Augusts when it felt like everybody was falling apart. We held on to each other, and that got us through.
Yeah, the vaccine story, I think, is a miracle.
It was amazing to be one of the first people to get the vaccine because, you feel grateful that you've gotten it before you were affected.
My whole team was passionate about the patients, and seeing their passion makes you want to come in and do the same, match that day in and day out.
No matter what situation that we're faced with, we have to get in here and take care of these patients regardless.
That's what kept me coming here. I knew that I had a job to do. I knew that I wanted to see patients, whether they were COVID positive or not, get better and transition back to home.
The trauma patients are still taken care of. The staff are adapting and continue to treat the highest acuity trauma patients in this region, again, without any sacrifice in any care.
We're going to love our patients, and we're going to respect their families, and we're going to do all we can to make sure that they know that at Regional One Health, we're bigger than a hospital, we're a family that cares.
I am Regional One Health proud.
Thank you again to the frontline workers across the country, especially the folks at Regional One Health, who I know made a lot of sacrifices in the last year just to simply do their jobs. Meanwhile, in Chicago, our team there has been working to help produce a virtual event that happened a few weeks ago, just last weekend actually, for the Legal Council for Health Justice. It's an organization whose mission really spoke to the team here at Forever Ready and whose work is all that much more important in light of what we've all been through in the last year. They produced the more than hour-long virtual event that was full of conversation and storytelling, and this piece is a story of success, of them working with a client specifically to help get him the help he needed. And that's all I'm going to say because the story speaks for itself. Take a listen.
It's not easy to be homeless, to go through things, to have things taken away from you. My name is Reuben Thompson Jr., and I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I'm bipolar schizophrenic, and I became homeless in Chicago. So I stayed on the streets almost, 8 years. I slept on the streets, in bus terminals, bus stops, wherever there was warmth at. I couldn't get my prescription, the medicine, because I didn't have the money, the income to get it. It was rough. It was a rough time. Like you want to cry, I was in the police station sleeping when it was cold. I went to sleep, and the sergeant came to me. So I was like half asleep, and before you know it, I swung on the police officer. They all tackled me, put me down. I went to Cook County Jail. I stayed there for like 11 months. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Mr. Thompson. When I got released from jail, I got connected to Lisa for my Social Security benefits.
When I met Mr. Thompson, he was recently come out of Cook County Jail within the last couple of months. I had connected with him because his Social Security disability claim had been denied. He was clearly eligible for the program. He had a very serious mental health condition that was disabling.
So much stuff was going on, and I just couldn't put a timeline on it.
I solicited records from emergency rooms and was able to actually reconstruct what had happened to him. And it was actually accounted. He was not using substances. Every emergency room encounter was about exposure, was about infestation due to his inability to attend to his hygiene. Never was he linked with outpatient care. He was symptomatic. He had beliefs that, when you read the records, were fantastical. And when I finally pieced together the evidence going back, it was probably 5 or 6 years, we were successful not only in winning on the current application, but we went back in time and won the previous application, which means he has a substantial amount of savings in his bank account. It was a pretty exciting time.
10 years I didn't have any income until I got with Lisa, and she made it better. Now I'm able to pay bills. Now I can eat what I like to eat. Now I'm able to get my medication, and I have the money that allowed me to get it with my Social Security benefits.
He's got a big heart, and I think he's doing terrific.
Lisa and the legal counsel helped me. And I thank Lisa to this day for it. Thank you, Lisa.
So thank you to the folks at LCHJ for trusting us to help tell that story. It was an honor to be a part of your virtual event and to collaborate with you to help raise funds this year. And if you live in the Memphis area, you probably noticed that the I-40 bridge is shut down the last couple of weeks. It feels like everything's sort of broken when you can't get across one of your 2 bridges to get into Arkansas. But of course, we took advantage of that and put the drone up to get some beautiful shots of the M Bridge, or the Hernando-Desoto Bridge. A little scary to think about what's happening underneath with the infrastructure, but I'm gonna trust the experts and the engineers to fix that for us. And instead close out today with a reminder to be good to each other and look for the positive while also looking at the beauty, like the Memphis Bridge. We'll see you next month.